The Joe Rogan Experience.
My question about that mummy is not that it's an alien, but if it does register as human in the DNA, is it potentially a different kind of human than us?
Well, certainly we brought in an expert in South American indigenous people genetics, and the analysis showed that the standard genetic mutations that are found in different racial groups around the world matched exactly the Atacama region of Chile. So her parents, her relatives were clearly Chilean. So yeah, I mean that's really all you can say. If someone wants to say that she's an alien, well, that's fine. I'm convinced of what she is and that she deserves a proper burial.
And so it's just a genetic anomaly.
Just a genetic anomaly.
I do know that you've paid attention to the Tridactyl mummies.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
So, I think people have conflated a lot of the different mummies that are out there, first of all. There's
a good point.
60 of them or something. And probably a fair number of them, I wouldn't necessarily call them hoaxes. I would say that they are constructed. But they're old constructs, so maybe there's some sort of homage paid to the ancestors or something like that, whatever they are. So there are some ones that you clearly look at, you go, oh, come on.
Right.
That never lived.
Then there's the fetal position
Then there's
ones.
the fetal position ones, the big ones.
Yeah.
And I was at the beginning, I'm always open to being wrong. I was at the beginning thinking, oh, well, because of the small ones, those are probably not real. But then the MRIs started coming out.
Yeah.
The full body MRIs and the ligature and the bone construction and the finger, and then perhaps most, I think, extraordinarily, the fingerprints on them being clearly not human. So it's interesting. But here's the problem, is that because there's so much circus around them, unfortunately created by people who want a circus because it sells their TV shows, no scientist of any merit would go near it. So I was approached many times to study them. And I said, I'll do it on one condition. Here's the money I need, not personally, but here's the money I need to do the kinds of analysis to accomplish this right. Second, there will be no TV cameras. And you won't hear from me again until I'm ready to talk, because I'll have double-checked and triple-checked and quadruple-checked the results, and then I'll have gone out, as I did with the Atacama mummy, bringing in further contiguous circles of experts to double-check me.
And not make it a circus.
Because I won't name the TV show that wanted to do it, but they wanted to follow me around with a camera. And I'm like, no, this isn't how science is done.
Right.
I can't do it with those strictures. So I would say that if anybody's going to do it again, lock the things away with South American scientists. You don't need a North American scientist to come in and do it. There's plenty of smart people in South America who can do this properly. And respect the rights of the indigenous peoples who own the sacred grounds within which these things were found. I think that's important. And then do the analysis right. They made, I think, the mistake of saying, well, we've done the DNA and there's a lot of DNA that doesn't match. Anything, and the stuff is several hundred years old, anything that old, you won't get a lot of good DNA out of it. But they did the same thing with the Denisovan and the Neanderthal. You have to correct the chemical errors that occur over time. There are ways to what's called bioinformatically correct. You need to do what's called over-reading of the genome, where you do so many reads of it that you stack them all up line by line. Like if you had 1,000 versions of an ancient Bible, you would stack up the lines one by one, and finally you find one line that has this letter, that's correct, and then this one correct, and then you basically do a summation of an averaging of the correctness. And so they say, oh, well, there's 90% of the genome is non-human. It's probably garbage. It's probably these mistakes. It's probably bacterial contamination that you're reading. There's ways to deal with that, but that requires money and not one-off DNA sequences put on the interwebs for some amateur genomicist to make a claim about.
Right.
So there's ways to do it. I mean, you would want, at the end of the day, to get the results to the level where you could go to the guys who did the Denisovan and the Neanderthal DNA, the Max Planck and others who won the Nobel Prize for it, and say, hey, what do you think? But you don't dare take it to people like that until you've done your homework.
I see. Yeah.
Right. And you do it behind the scenes. You don't put them under a flashlight.
Right.
And people, I think, have gotten used to this click mentality of impatience where I want the result today. Why can't you just make it all transparent? Dump all the data on the web tomorrow. You're not transparent. You're hiding something. No, I'm not. I am just trying to make sure that you don't make the mistake and accuse me of making the mistake that you'll find in the data, because the raw data is never clean.
In the Daily Mail headline.
In the Daily Mail
it's
headline.
Never accurate.
So, long story short, I think there's still something worth looking at there.
Well, the scans are fascinating, right?
Yeah, the scans are the most interesting to me.
Have you seen the Jesse Michaels, the newest video?
Yeah, Jesse's a good friend.
He's great. I love that guy. And the episode that he did is fantastic. And when you see the scans and they go over the bone structure of the thing and you look at it, you're like, God, that looks real. Yeah. If that's a hoax from 1,700 years ago or
exactly,
yeah, whoever, if the carbon isotope dating that they did on it is accurate.
I've looked at that data. It looks good.
Okay. So then it is that old. Fuck you then.
Yeah.
Because there's no way someone back then could fake that.
And somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, could you have a single mutation or a set of, I said, no. I mean, because you don't get one mutation that does all that.
Right.
Evolution works step by step, that this does this, but it has a mistake, but it's corrected by this mutation over here in evolution, which is corrected by this. And so the genome fluctuates over time, compensating for the errors that would otherwise have killed you.
Also, one of them is pregnant.
That's fast. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so it's a 3-foot pregnant thing that doesn't look remotely human being.
Yeah. So the jury is still out.
Right.
But if they're going to do it right, they need to sequester the stuff away, bring in the right people with sufficient resources, and get rid of the cameras.
Have you talked to them? Have you encouraged this? Is it
Openly.
possible to nudge this in the right direction? And where's it at right now?
I wrote out on Twitter a full thing of what they needed to do. I mean, the easiest first milestone to do, to be honest, that could be done within a couple of months, is if it is somewhere in the hominid or, let's say, vertebrate line, there are metabolism genes that we all share. In fact, there are metabolism genes that we share with bacteria that are very similar. So do you know the technique called polymerase chain reaction, PCR?
Yes.
So, why try to do the whole genome? Why not just target a bunch of genes that we know evolve slowly, but do evolve, and PCR those out? Because that's easier to do than is trying to assemble a whole genome. And then by having just those, let's call it preliminary sets of evidence, you could then say, this actually reproducibly, if I take a sample from the finger, I take a sample from the bone marrow, I take a sample from here or there on the body, and I take a sample from the 3 different main things, and I see the same mutations, and they're different or somehow aligned with hominid evolution, right? We compare it to all the known hominids. I mean, that would be the kind of data that you could actually publish in a journal like Nature if you did it right. Because that's the only way that you're going to get anybody to pay attention.
There's also the bizarre anecdotal nature of some of the artwork. Like the fact that these people did a lot of these tapestries and a lot of ancient artwork that's 1,000 years old that depicts these three-fingered things. So it's like, what are they describing? Are they describing these actual creatures? That was there only a few of them, and it was a weird genetic mutation, or is this a common visitor that they're describing?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, why would you put them in a cave in Peru? I don't know.
And if you didn't put them in a cave in Peru, what would be left? That's the problem. Yeah. The problem is it's really hard to make a fossil. It's really hard to find bones. You know, think about all the people that died.
Right.
And we don't find that many bones, relatively speaking, in comparison to the fucking billions of people that died.
Right.
It's not like we're tripping over human bones every day.
Right. Except in mass graves.
Yeah. Right. That's really And even in mass graves, given enough time, they will deteriorate. Like mass graves from 1,000, 1,700 years ago, or whatever these things are.
So, I find them interesting, and I hope that behind the scenes there are people who are taking a more methodical approach to this, who I think should remain stealthed until they have the data to the point where it is publishable.
They can publish. Yeah.
Publishing a white paper or putting something out on the internet is not the same as putting out data that has all of the instruments that you used, the methods that you used, et cetera. The reason you want papers, frankly, when you publish them, to be almost boring and so thick with detail that no pseudo-skeptic would dare approach it because they're just not smart enough. But if you put out these snippets that don't have sufficient background, they can be picked apart by anybody. Right? But that's why peer review is so important. And people mistake peer review as trying to get the reviewers to agree with your conclusions. No, the main purpose of peer review is actually to make sure that the methods that you used are sufficiently detailed and are correct enough to the extent you came to any conclusions, they match the methods that you used.
And when you think about these potential, whatever they are, whatever these creatures are, if we did find out that they are some sort of a hominid, how much credence do you give to the theory that there's like the possibility that these UFOs, UAPs, whatever it is a break-off civilization from a very, very long time ago that's very different from us, just same way we're very different from chimpanzees, which we coexist with? Right.
I have no problem conjecturing that. Did you ever see the Netflix show Chimp Empire?
Yes.
Amazing, right?
Amazing.
20 million years of separation, and it looked like fucking faculty meeting. With people like looking at each other and planning and plotting, board meeting, and so we shared all of those interactions from 20 million years ago. So how much further back would you have to go to have something like what that is? I mean, it's clearly not recent.
And also, if you think about what we are in comparison to chimps, we're so fragile, we're frail, we're easily injured, well, if you think of something that's far more technologically advanced than us, it would be even more frail. It would be even more petite. It would have almost no muscle at all. It would look, weirdly enough, like the Greys from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, that's what it would look like. If it was a hominid that's whatever we are, and it went way past that.
Right. Yeah, no, technology gives evolution the excuse to no longer make or allow for you to be
robust.
Thank you. That was the word
and also, why do you need opposable thumbs?
Yeah.
Right? These things don't even have opposable thumbs.
That was what's weird about it.
Right.
It's like, how do you interact with your environment? They look more like sloths than they do.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, at least their hands do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I find it...
Well, if everything's done with AI and automation and your interface is purely neurological, like so you have some sort of a human or a creature neuro interface with technology, and you just use fingers to like lay them on electronics so that you can sync up with it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why are you picking things up, bro? You don't have to pick things up anymore. Those go away just like,